Ariel Helwani in Melbourne, Australia for UFC 193 alongside the Director of Operations for the UFC in Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, Mr. Tom Wright. Tom, I think it's kind of funny that a Canadian has to track down a fellow Canadian in Australia, hundreds of thousands of miles away, but it is good to see you.
It's serendipitous, Ariel.
Yes.
It really is. It's great to be here, and I'm always excited when I have an opportunity to to share different parts of the world with my fellow Canadians. So it's great to have you here in Melbourne.
I remember it was around this time last year that you sort of dropped the hint that this big event would come here. And you've been doing a lot of work trying to get MMA cage fighting legalized here in Victoria. How long have you actually been working on this particular event?
Well, it's been 3+ years that we've been trying to have the government of Victoria have a saner head prevail in terms of our sport. As you know, professional mixed martial arts has always been legal here. It's always been sanctioned. It's always been regulated, but it was only allowed in a boxing ring, which makes no sense whatsoever. It took a long time, but we were persistent and we were patient and we were disciplined, and saner heads prevailed. And it was last November that there was an election here, a state election, and the then shadow government, the opposition government, was successful in winning that election. And they had run on a policy that if elected, they would lift the octagon ban and then pave the way for an opportunity. And they lived up to that. And we said, if you do that, we'll promise to bring a big event. And so the Labour government lived up to their promise, and the UFC has lived up to its promise.
Initially, the talks were around 70,000 people, the record. Are you still expecting that?
We are absolutely expecting to set records. You know, the fact of the matter is that 70,000 number relates to the record here that I think was achieved when the Jehovah's Witnesses were here.
Okay. Wow.
So, not
Tough
exactly
competition.
Tough competition. Well, the per caps were pretty low, I'm suspecting.
Yeah, that's right.
But on Sunday, when this event is over, I think you'll see that we're on track and we'll set some records.
And somewhere in that office of yours in Toronto, you must have a hat with now 2 feathers in it, because you have the biggest event as of right this second. That was Toronto, UFC 129, and you can have the second one as well. I mean, that's a pretty big accomplishment, right?
Well, you know what? It's interesting.
Don't be modest.
No, but the truth is, Ariel, you've been covering our sport for a long time, and you know as well as I do that MMA and combat sports are individual sports. But what we do with these events, it's a team sport. And I think that what's really cool about this opportunity here, there are 275 UFC teammates from 5 different continents that have come here to help set some records. So I just happen to be one of the 275, so I couldn't be happier.
Could you speak to the gate? Do you know ballpark what it will be?
As I said earlier, it's we're going to probably set some records. So,
wow.
And you know what the record is?
I do. Also UFC 129.
55,724.
And that gate, what was it, 11 million, 12 million?
It was 11 or 12 million USD. I think from a gross gate perspective, you look at conversion rates and the Aussie dollar versus the American dollar, what the Canadian dollar was back then. I think that you'll see you'll hear some really interesting records that we're going to break.
Now, I'm going to ask you about this. What's the plan for Canada in 2016? As a Canadian, and I come to you as a representative of your great Canadian fans, I think they're feeling a little underserved these days. What do you think?
Well, you know what? I think the fact of the matter is that we remain very, very committed to Canada. We're looking at 3 events in 2016. We're not at the stage where we can announce any of those particular events or dates, but there's going to be some places that we've been to before that we're going to return to.
Great.
And there's going to be some places that we've never been to before. So stay tuned.
Now, if a certain fellow from Montreal decides to come back, does that change plans? Could a 4th be added, or would you try to plug him into one of those? Is he too big for Canada these days? What do you think about the potential return of GSP?
Well, he's not too big for Canada. I mean, his records have all been set in Canada. The Bell Centre has the highest. Used to have the highest attendance record of 22,500. That was a George fight. The 55,000 plus at the Rogers Centre at UFC 129 was a George fight. So he's not. Canada's not too small to host George again. And listen, I've always wanted George to do whatever is right for his career. He's been as iconic an ambassador for our sport that anyone could ever imagine. I want him to do what's best for him, and if he comes back and have a chance to host him in Canada, I think there's a pretty good chance I'd put my hand up.
Yeah. Have you talked to him recently?
I haven't spoken to him since we had a lovely lunch back in earlier this year in Montreal. So he's doing well. He's got a great attitude. He's got a great perspective on life, and again, it's his call, and I wish him the best.
What does your gut say? Does he come back next year?
What does my gut say? You know, actually, I haven't spoken with my gut about George.
Okay.
Again, I mean, there's a side of me that would love him to come back because obviously nobody turns the needle in Canada like George does. But the other side of me says, you know, he's just a great Canadian that's done wonderful work for us, and I want what's right for him. So, you know, my gut says that he'll make the right call, and whatever call he makes, I'll support.
Does Canada need him? Does the market need him?
Well, no, I think the fact of the matter is that you know, every one of these iconic athletes at some point in time, you know, moves on. You know, Wayne Gretzky moved on and was replaced by Sidney Crosby. In football, it happens. In basketball, it happens. And in our sport, it happens as well. And so we've got a great crop of new fighters coming along. And what a lot of people have, you know, fail to remember is that we have 4 women who are all ranked in the top 10 in either strawweight or bantamweight. You know, Rory McDonald is Rory McDonald. We've got some great young fighters that are coming along. Olivier Aubin-Mercier, Elias Theodoro. We're pretty excited about those athletes. There will be, at some point, a changing of the guard. It happens in every sport, and it's going to happen in ours. So those are the things that you manage.
Final thing, as you know, distance makes the heart grow fonder. His return, could that be a stadium show in your opinion? Could it be at the Rogers Centre or maybe the Big O in Montreal?
You always ask me about the Big O.
Yes, come on.
My
You hate the Big O.
No, I don't hate the Big O.
It's a decrepit stadium.
I just don't want to go in there and have something fall on my head. It'll put a real damper on the weekend.
I agree.
I used to worry about the Big O when I was
Yes.
with the Canadian Football League. I sort of, every time I went in there, I sort of looked up here like this and was
There's a
worried.
charm to it, wouldn't you say? Je ne sais quoi.
You know what? Charm is one of the words that I've not heard in any descriptive sentence for the Big O.
Okay. But is it a stadium show for him? Maybe Rogers Centre?
It could very well be.
Yeah. Well, good luck this weekend. It is a pleasure to be here. I just got to see the arena. What a sight it is. It's unbelievable. You've done tremendous work, so congratulations. Looking forward to the event on Sunday.
Thanks, Ariel. It's going to be a lot of fun.